renewable energy, Drax, which definitely doesn't sound like an evil Bond villain company, does it, Drax? Anyway, has stated that in 2022, Britain hit a new record in using renewable energy. That sounds great. However, we know that Drax has been investigated for cutting down ancient forests for the biomass production and using ships that consume fossil fuels to run their products to global customers. So well done, Drax. At the same time, our government are pushing for all sorts of green initiatives and schemes, such as a push for electric cars, which use precious metals like cobalt for their rechargeable batteries. And mining cobalt has a reputation for unethical working, to say the least. It's child slave labour from mostly African children. And don't get us started on the old carbon credit tosh, a government scheme which is like a new currency which completely dictates the actions of big energy companies. These credits can fluctuate and this year can reach up to £62 per metric tonne. It's just fictional, isn't it? It's all complete fiction. For these big companies, being greener is just a new lucrative revenue scheme. So, is renewable energy actually as green as it seems? And do the government and big oil companies really care about the planet? Or are they just as precious carbon credits? Here is a fan favourite, ladies and gentlemen. To shed some light on this is director of Car 26, is Lois Perry. Lois, difficult to know where to start. I'm going to throw it over to you. You lead this conversation. This is your bag.
OK, right. I like it when that happens. Yeah. That's good. Right, OK, so 40% apparently is renewable. Absolute tosh. 20%, so it's half of that is actually biomass and biogas. So biomass is the wood chips that come over from America in massive ships, powered by diesel, over to the UK to be burnt in Drax, which used to be a coal-fired power station. So using our own coal, right. Well, at some point, it should be using our own coal. Yep. And also biogas as well. Both of these emit, even if you believe CO2 is causing any problems, which I don't, but it's worse than burning coal. Right. So what are they doing? It's complete nonsense.
So realistically, it's just a token effort in your view, and actually what this is a load of companies virtue signalling about being good for the environment, and in reality, the methods that it's taking them to try to be good for the environment are actually worse for the environment than the stuff we're doing now.
Absolutely, but they are paid 100 to 200% more for renewable energy. So that will include wind power, solar, and also the biomass and the biogas. So that's 100% to 200% over and above the market price, the set market price for energy.
So they're
paying that.
So they're making money off the taxpayer for being subsidised for being, quotes, green with their technology,
That's
when in
right.
reality it's not that green.
But they're not getting the money from the government as such because it's going straight onto our electricity and energy bills. Right. So actually it's the reverse Robin Hood. And the speculators in the city absolutely love it because you're literally taking from the poor to pay the rich. The only people making the money are the wealthy landowners, the city speculators, and also the Chinese coal mine people and the precious minerals and stuff that go into these wind turbines, because basically, you know, it's all going on our electricity bills, and the poor disproportionately pay much more for their energy, obviously. It's really, really disgusting what's going on.
So I suppose at one level you could argue that maybe this is just really terrible government or a terrible idea that's not being put into practice well. Another argument could be that it's quite sinister and it's being deliberately designed to make people poorer. Where are you on that?
Well, you know, the energy companies benefit, everybody benefits. Every single person in the chain and every company benefits apart from the consumer, apart from you and me and our energy bills. And they talk about, you know, wind turbines and everything and making energy. You know, there was a great fanfare in November when the biggest battery storage facility in Europe was opened in this country, so you've got 50 massive, great big batteries in the size of a football pitch. Do you know that this whole thing, if it's full to capacity with energy, is 4%, hang on, what was it? 1% of what we need in the UK for 4 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, but you know why? It's still worth them doing it because we have to pay such over the odds by law, well, as I say, 100 to 200%, that it's actually worthwhile them doing it. They can still make billions and millions of pounds.
One of the things that staggers me as well is some of the materials that we need for our electric cars, or even just, frankly, for our mobile phones and stuff like that, are mined out of the ground by essentially enslaved African children in some senses.
They're not essentially enslaved. They are slaves.
Really.
I mean, if you're a little kid and you're in a mine and you're working, they're using their bare hands.
It's grim.
These wokes, these disgusting wokes who would have probably been cheering as the BLM supporters who don't realise it's a Marxist organisation that swindled millions of pounds and whatever, and they would have been cheering Colston's statue being pulled down in Bristol, and the same people be telling everyone smugly that they've got an electric car that's cost them 40 grand.
Well, this
they can
is
go
it.
5 minutes down the road in.
Look, this is the thing, isn't it, which is that if you take it right back to source, and everyone likes to do this, don't they, right nowadays? It's fashionable, so it's where it all goes back to source. Even the vegans are especially good at doing this as well when it comes to, well, do you know exactly where your meats come from or exactly what you're wearing and all this kind of stuff. But actually, in reality, if you're driving around an electric car thinking that you're doing great, not giving Sadiq Khan any nightmares with your old diesel, even though he obviously drives around chauffeur-driven in
and he goes through all those zones that you're not allowed to go
Of course,
through.
Well, that's his right as our dear leader here in London.
Dear leader, indeed.
And the windows are blacked out, so he can't see all of the stabbings that are taking place on his watch. But, you know, realistically, your electric car has come from quite a bad source. Certain elements of it have.
It has, and again, you know, this is why I don't believe that the Greenies and these CO2 fanatics actually believe in what they're talking about, because every single alternative that they propose, whether it's wind turbines or solar farms or electric cars, use more CO2 in their production and end up producing more CO2. It's a scam.
Is that true then? Is that?
No, absolutely right. Yeah, okay. I mean, the wind farms in 2020, actually, the real figure was that they only produced 4% of all electricity. It's not real.
It's not good enough. It's not. Well, you're saying it's not sustainable. They're supposed to be sustainable, but it's not.
It destabilises the grid as well because it's so intermittent. The energy that's produced, it actually destabilises the grid, and that's why they're talking about blackouts. But it's why people, you know, I read today that homelessness has gone up in the last 3 months on people on the streets by 21%.
That's mad.
Yeah, that's because people can't afford their bills, and they can't afford their bills because of green subsidies and other costs.
It's a needless expense, in my view, as well, because actually you could argue that when everything's rosy in the garden, then all right, maybe you can go ahead and do some things like this, even if it was actually more sustainable and greener and fairer and all of that jazz. But now, things are not all rosy in the garden. A load of people are skimming in the middle of a cost of living crisis, and we seem to be enacting policies in order to please Greta Thunberg, who has now just turned, I believe, 20 and is a Swedish girl who spent very little time at school, as far as I can tell. To please her will now make people homeless.
But is it just to please her, or is it to please the endless gravy chain of people that are feeding off it, because every single person in the chain is making money, including the energy companies.
Well, there you go. Lois, thank you very, very much. As ever, Lois Perry there, who is the wonderful, wonderful director of Car 26. Right now, a Drax spokesperson said Drax has a world-leading biomass sourcing policy, and the biomass we use is highly regulated to ensure compliance with UK sustainability standards. There we go.